My favorite video game has to be Tales of Symphonia. It was the game that introduced me to role-playing games, and the game that taught me that there was more to storytelling in a video game than just go out and save the princess or kill the bad guy at the end. When I play the game, I feel really just good. Everything's so well done in that game for me. Like, the combat system is well thought out, the characters are good, the story's fun. Everything about this game is just fun.
Amazing.
If I think hard enough or just kind of daydream hard enough, I feel like I could place myself in the world of this game because it's so well crafted and the mythology is interesting. And to the question, if there's more to gaming than just plug and play, of course there is. It's like the whole storytelling thing about video games that makes it about a lot more than plug and play.
My favorite video game, that would have to be broadened into my favorite game series, as it is the Monster Hunter game series by Capcom. I like this series of games because you go against giant monsters and you craft weapons and armors from them after you do so. When I play it, I feel challenged, excited. I sometimes feel anger when I don't do as good as I think I should be doing. And I feel amazement for the game has qualities that just separate from other games that I play. I feel like when I play it, I'm viewing a different world. I don't feel as if I am in the world there, but more so I'm viewing it. And I think there is definitely more to just plugging in and playing a game.
I'd have to say that one of my all-time favorite video games was Grand Theft Auto 5. Why do I like it? Well, it was a really interesting look at American culture as a whole. A lot of people look at it and they think, all they think of is indiscriminate violence, reckless driving, hookers, gangsters and thugs, drugs. That's what they think of when they think of it. But nobody really looks at it and thinks, wow, that's a really beautiful and well-crafted universe, and the references, the sarcastic, satirical comments about American culture as a whole are just amazing. I have spent a lot of time with the new version playing it in first person and just seeing the amount of detail that Rockstar has placed into each and every corner of Los Santos and the whole LA area is just amazing. It's been such a blast to just see what a developer who really respects the craft can do. When I play the game, it's really it's a way to unwind for me, because I don't think I've ever played a game that, even when I'm trying to follow the story and do it seriously, the stupidest and funniest things just keep happening. Like, for example, I'll be playing through it in first person and just trying to get from point A to point B, but it's so hard to drive in first person that I keep flipping the car or doing ridiculous things, and it's just so hilarious. It's definitely a way to unwind in that case. But even then, when you're paying attention to the story is just really, it's well crafted in and of itself. So it's like, it's really fun to get to know these characters and find out what makes them tick, because they're living, breathing characters. They've been motion captured by the voice actors, and their faces have been captured. So when you're looking at these characters, like Trevor Phillips, for example, his voice actor and motion capture artist he is a Canadian, and when you look at his character, you see him. So you can kind of relate to the actual characters in the game. It's just a really interesting and fascinating way to play through a game and actually get to know these characters almost on a personal level. You don't see that very often. There isn't that much depth to a lot of titles out there anymore. Do you feel like you're in a different world when playing said game? I don't know really how to respond to that. I would say yes and no. No, because it is based on a real world, but yes, because the rules are different. I can't drive like I do in the game in real life. I would be either killed or arrested almost immediately, and plus I would destroy my car. Whereas in the game, you are in a different world in the sense that I can just keep smashing into cars left and right, and then when mine is totaled, just get out and go pick up another one. If I get killed, I just magically reappear at the hospital. So in a way, it is a different world. It is a different universe, but you see so many mirrors to reality, our reality. They just make it really interesting. It's like you can be yourself and understand exactly what's going on, while also just having an amazing time doing things that you couldn't possibly do normally. Is there more to gaming than simply plugging in and playing? I think there is, absolutely. I think that video games are an incredible medium for art. It's easily, I think, the most in-depth form of art at this point, because not only do you get beautiful music, beautiful visual effects, beautiful artwork in the video games, beautiful storytelling. Like, certain titles, like Grand Theft Auto, can absolutely be some of the most involved and amazing types of art imaginable. The amount of detail technically that's put into Grand Theft Auto 5 is unparalleled in the industry as far as I'm concerned. That's not to say that it's the best video game ever, but it's definitely up there for technical detail. The audio is amazing, both the soundtrack that they've selected for the radio stations and the soundtrack that they've composed for the game itself are fantastic. The storytelling is just, honestly, that is one of the biggest things with that game, aside from just goofing off. It's goofing off and then the story. And the story is not just plugging in and play. The story is just an amazing look at bank robbers that have to deal with the way that LA changes people, and how the government is corrupt, and how to still commit heists in a modern world with advanced technology. It's just a fascinating look at that lifestyle. So I absolutely, at least in terms of that, this genre, these kinds of games where there's just intense storytelling, absolutely it's more than just plugging in and playing. I mean, by contrast, something like playing Call of Duty online, I think that's more plugging and play, because you're popping in and out. You're not sitting down and experiencing the game. You're sitting down to just shoot. So there's a difference for sure.
What's up, homie?
Hey, look, Chop got to stay around your crib for a while, homie. That's cool?
Yeah, man, it's cool. Shit's the best place for him anyway.
Ha! Like like it ain't nobody out there gunning for your black ass.
I don't have a favorite game, but there are a few games that are special to me, and one of those games is Final Fantasy VII. Why? Because I was late to playing it actually compared to most people. I played it in 2009 maybe. After hearing so much about it, I finally got it and turned it on and on, saw that opening cutscene, like, wow, this looks great. Started playing it, and then I saw how bad the graphics were. I laughed for a few minutes, and instantly the story just took me, and I just didn't care about the graphics anymore. What do I feel like when I'm playing it? Well, I feel like a moment from my childhood when I rented a game for the GameCube on Friday after school, and then when I went to play it, I basically didn't shut it off till my parents told me to turn it off. So it feels like I'm a kid again in my room playing games. Do I feel like I'm in a different world when playing it? Yes, I do. I literally feel like when the story started taking its effect, I was in that world. I could identify with some of the characters. You know, it really felt like I was there. And is there more than just plugging in and playing? Absolutely. I mean, when you start to game enough, you start to realize that there is a community around this, and you start to say, hey, I can get into this community now. Actually, and then you meet friends who are gamers as well, and then it just becomes this big community. And although with the way games are now, with their storytelling and whatnot, it does raise another question, and that's, are video games art? Which I'm not going to answer because that would just be way too long. But yeah, there's more than plugging and playing, basically.
My favorite video game would have to come from the Legends of Gaming known as Nintendo, simply known as The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. I personally like this game because it showed me that things aren't as they always seem and taught me how to deal with situations. The game came to me at the right moment in my life. Long story short, I had been subject to bullying, and this game really helped me see that things can always be worse than they appear to be. The messages the game provides are astounding, though I may be taking them a little literally, but it really helped me through that phase of my life. When I play the game, I feel like I get attached to the characters and their problems that they were experiencing. Having experienced their problems at the same time I had experienced mine, I could easily attach myself to them. I felt like I was one of the characters that was in the game. I feel like when I play the game, I'm in the world that the game is presenting to me. Like I said earlier, I feel like I'm one of the people in the world that the game establishes. Each person has a problem that they need assistance with, much like I did when I was a child. The world the game had given me was an experience in its own way that I could escape to. Having matured since then, the experience has changed slightly, though I may not have the same problems as I used to. And to the question, is there more to plugging in and playing a video game? I would have to say definitely. Games are becoming much more cinematic and tell stories that are on par with things like movies, television shows, and even books. They can help people in times of need, such as myself when I was growing up. And the fact that something as simple as, let's say, Pac-Man, where you collected pellets until you were touched by a ghost, has evolved into something like The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is mind-boggling. Like, having cinematics that are on par with, like, movies such as Guardians of the Galaxy that's just mind-boggling. I now ask the question, to what degree could we consider video games more than just playing a game? By several responses given, it can be seen clearly that there is something more for sure, even to the degree where we can consider them an art, though that is a whole other conversation and relates to this topic. Video games have evolved to the point where they can be considered an art form, much like a painting, a book, or even a movie. Video games have become much more than a time waster and more of an experience. Video games have a way of telling a similar story in new ways. Unlike a movie, the gameplay in between the story segments of an adventure is the story, much like a book, and how it goes into greater details of the characters and the events that take place. Games can feel like an interactive storybook where you choose your adventure the way you want to play out. Sure that with most games you have a set story to play through to reach your ending, but the destination to that ending is yours. Take for example one of the most famous adventure games ever made, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. You travel through the game on a set adventure to rescue Hyrule from the evil Ganondorf, needing to travel through 8 dungeons and collecting items and weapons to build your arsenal. In between these dungeons lies side quests you can do for the various people in Hyrule, and even if you don't want to do those side quests, you can play minigames like horse racing or even go fishing. These instances of gameplay provide a way for you as the player to determine your own story. To consider video games an art form is a way of looking into why we play games. Video games can also inspire players in their creativity in art, writing, and even making their own video games. A recent game released called Shovel Knight is a perfect example of video games taking an art form. The game plays back on retro-style gaming with its art style, and even references various retro games in its own. Video games inspire people to be creative with the materials presented to them. Such as myself, I am inspired by games as an art to aspire my own creation of filmmaking. Short films I have made were inspired by events or scenes within gaming that really stuck out to me. Now, I have to pose a question. Do video games inspire you? Like, you as the viewer, do you feel inspired when you see and play video games through to the end? Like, I can understand if you play a game such as Pac-Man, you won't be as inspired as you are compared to something like The Legend of Zelda, or, I don't know, stop using that reference. Something a little more like Halo, or Call of Duty. Oh, actually, that one was a bad example, but Halo, for instance, it's like a sci-fi opera almost. Oh, even Mass Effect. Those games are inspired by many different things, and just it's mind-boggling to think that these are people's creations because of gaming. Now, I ask the question, can you feel inspired by gaming? Do you feel inspired by gaming? Do you feel that it inspires you to be creative? Step outside of your comfort zone. Like, who knows? Maybe in the future, everyone will be able to create games, and they can inspire people like game developers have inspired us.